For those of you who don't know, Roy has worked in politics, national level before. He and I met doing special projects my last active duty tour in the military. And he has done everything from take out the trash to the end game when it comes to national level politics. And I called him up and I said, Roy, this is what just happened. And I said, what do you think? He said, give me about 3 weeks and let me do some research and I'll get back with you. Well, he reads every book ever written on Arkansas politics and starts digging deep and digging and mining data and putting together hard numbers. He comes back to me and he says, this is what I found. He said, you're the right guy at the right time in history, in the right state, and it will happen this election. He said, any other time in history, any other state, or any other guy, I would say no. And I said, well, why is that? He said, because in this state, 92% of Arkansans are registered as independent, meaning they register as optional. They do not choose one of the two major parties. 3 out of 100 are registered as Republicans, 5 out of 100 are registered as Democrats. I thought, well, that's interesting. Yeah. I said, so what do you think? I mean, I let a few months go by. Finally, I said, you know what? Let's do it. We'll do this. So July 4th, they invited me back to be the keynote speaker at the July 4th Tea Party, and I said, got up on stage, and I announced that I was going to announce the exploratory committee, run for office. But I said, I looked at the crowd and I said, you failed to tell me what office to run for. And you asked, but you didn't say which office. So we put a poll online. It was everything from quorum court, state representative, state senate, governor, and a seat currently held by Blanche Lincoln for United States Senate. There were 200 people at that tea party. The majority of them I had never met in my life. In 28 days, the 28th day, actually been 24 days, on the 28th of July, our website got compromised, but we had the numbers captured. At that point, 400 people had voted in that poll. And the majority of them, of course, I did not know, but 54% of those people said, we want you to run for the seat currently held by Blanche Lincoln. And I said, then that's what we're going to do. And it began. When it began, there were 2 of us. Pretty soon, there was 350 people from around the country that were helping us out on everything you could imagine. A prime example is this picture on the back. It's a kid in Florida. He found us, and it's my favorite picture from Afghanistan. It was actually the last picture that was taken of me before I was pulled out of the desert. And
looks like Robert Redford.
And anyway, but the picture was taken in bad light. I mean, you can only imagine. And the guys, this was actually, we were getting ready to drive out of the desert. He said, I can fix that. I mean, if you need anything done with the photographs, get a hold of it. Kid fixed it. And I was like, you got to be kidding me, it's the same picture. And another guy that found us is a software sales guy in Colorado. But he happens to be, when it comes to verbiage and the Constitution, he can touch up and tighten things up unlike things. So whenever we do positions, he may not change but 1 or 2 words, but we send them to him. He goes through and he tightens them up for us. These are people all over the United States that we can call on any given time. As time went on, we started our framework and getting ready for the ground game, meaning for the signatures. We had to get 10,000 signatures to get on the ballot. So over about a 10-month period, we put out a Facebook site called 1000 Make History in Arkansas, and we had roughly 1,300 people step up and say, I'll help you get signatures. And what we were calling for was to get 10 signatures. We need 1,000 people to help us get 10 signatures. And prior to that, I spent nothing but 7 months traveling the state of Arkansas. I even came down to El Dorado, and one evening during a snowstorm, believe it or not, came south to get away out of the snow and ran right back into it. We had a meet and greet down there, and we listened to people all over the state of Arkansas trying to find out if I said and was in line with what the people of Arkansas thought, what their problems were, and their solutions. Coffee shops all over the place. I mean, I'm a firm believer that the problems this country faces today are solved in coffee shops all across the country. There's just nobody's listening. The only problem I had was I could not put a finger on who we are. Who are we as Arkansans? I mean, I've always considered myself, I grew up with Ronald Reagan being president, his 2 terms, and I always considered, he had a great impact on who I am today. Him and my father probably had the greatest impact on the man that I became, based on their philosophies and small government and the military and different things like that. But it's still, you can never find it in writing. What is a Reagan conservative? So I was talking to about a half dozen National Guardsmen one day, and it's the day after Scott Brown had been elected to the United States Senate in Massachusetts. And one of them made the statement. He said, "What do you think about Scott Brown getting elected to the United States Senate?" I said, "Well, I think that's great for Massachusetts, but he's not an Arkansas conservative."
Right.
And I was like, there it is. That's who we are. We're Arkansas conservatives. So I spoke in Mena about 2 weeks later, 750 people, and I challenged them. I said, listen, told them the same story. We need to define who we are as Arkansas conservatives. We are different than any other state because of the number of us that do not choose a party affiliation. And I challenged them to help me to define who we are. So what came of that is this. As an Arkansas conservative, no matter what, with the economy, with jobs, you know, those are hot topics. Majority of the time, I'm going to get asked one of 4 questions before we ever get to those topics. And of course, I always announce that I am a Christian, but one of the first questions is, where do you stand with God? And of course, I am a Christian. I just told you how I live my life, and that is who I am. I have a strong belief in God, and I am a Christian. The second thing is, where do you stand on the Constitution and the Bill of Rights? I believe the Constitution is a document that was written roughly 234 years ago. 36. Anyway, 234.
Right.
234 years ago. They had the same problems then that we are experiencing now. We may have come through the Industrial Revolution. We may have come through the computer age. But in this second issue, there is a piece of George Washington's farewell address written by him and Thomas Jefferson. He warns us of exactly what is taking place today if we go down a certain path. If they had not experienced the same problems we did when they wrote the Constitution of the United States, even though it was in a different time, do you think he would have been able to predict what is taking place right now in this country? The third question I always get asked is always an emphasis of where do you stand on the Second and the 10th Amendment? Well, of course, the Second Amendment, we all know, is the right to keep and bear arms, and it shall not be infringed. In this country, I stand firm on the Second Amendment. I believe if you have not committed a felony, you should be able to own a gun. The federal government should not be dictating anything to you, and hence now it moves into the 10th Amendment, which is the reason that we're all able to have concealed carry here in Arkansas, and it would reciprocate with other states. States' rights, the federal government, if the states were allowed to police themselves up, instead of the federal government telling us everything we need to do, we would not be in the situation we're in right now. And finally, number 4, on the backbone of the Arkansas conservatives, where do you stand on abortion? I am pro-life. I believe life begins at conception. I believe in protecting the life of the innocent, but I also believe in the death penalty. And the reason I put that in there is there's many say you cannot be a true pro-lifer if you believe in the death penalty. Well, that's where I stand. I don't believe in abortion, but I do believe in the death penalty. So as time went on, we came out and said, you know, this is who we are. And we started our signature drive. We turned in over 14